Hey, sorry I'm a couple minutes late here if anybody's on. I'll be going live here in a second. I gotta share the links. Alright, getting ready to roll. Sorry for the delay, guys.
Megtooth Sabers requires a lot of work on engineering, drilling, smoothing, tapping, setting, imagining, cutting, stripping, twisting, dipping, tin it, pin it, wire it, fire it, lock it, rust it, swing it, bash it. Megtooth Sabers.
Should be mic'd up now. So, Christmas blade going in the background. I know that it's going to get totally blown out by the camera. Christmas blade. It's like a Christmas tree. That one's from Fernando. It's got the passive battery monitor on it. That's pretty cool. Guess the battery's almost dead. Yellow?
3.55 volts.
So it is. Guess we need to recharge. So, hey Michael Dallin, well we just started, so you are right on time. Smooth Jazz Family. So, Eric, I have some good and bad news for you tonight. And let me get some blades hooked up so I can see it, since I see that you're on the stream. You can see, or I don't know if you can see, but I've got some of your sabers here behind me. Battle brick. Yeah, we got some bad news for you, but oh, let's see here. That's Ghostbusters.
Smooth gray. Smooth.
Over here.
Darth Malak.
Hello there, Teensy.
Smooth Jedi. Smooth gray. Smooth
Hey, Israel.
fuzz. Road smooth.
Okay, so I got this one on a blue blade. Stand by, because I want to show you something. This is your graflex. Of course, this is your graflex that I installed, Eric. And I'm going to put a 7/8 inch blade in there and turn this sucker on. Y'all just bear with me 1 second. I've got to show Smooth Jazz Family something here. Okay, there. So they're both in the same font with the same blade color. I'm going to show you the difference between a Megtooth Sith install and patch store. So this is no offense, but this is a battle brick and it's installed by the patch store. This is a graflex 2.5 installed by Megtooth Sabers.
Be careful.
Oops.
Not to choke on your
Hang on a minute, I have to go back.
Director.
3.92 volts.
Alright, now we're on the same front. So here we go. First I'm going to ignite the patch store Saber. Wow, that's even worse. That's supposed to be blue. Stand by. Let me try to find a blue here. Doesn't really want to stay in a blue. Now I'm going to ignite my install. And you see the difference? Patch store. This is a full battery. My install. Patch store. Megtooth Sith. So that is the bad news, Eric. This Saber, your battle brick, I upgraded all your configs. But to tell you the truth, in my opinion, I really think this Saber needs a completely new install. And, oh yeah, I had a great Thanksgiving, Jeff. Hope y'all did too. Got to spend Thanksgiving with my family, which is unusual because normally in my line of work, I don't get to be at home on Thanksgiving. Yeah, you know, unfortunately for Eric, Smooth Jazz Family, you know, that patch store install, what's happening, Eric, and I've measured, I've got my multimeter out, and that chassis connection thing they have going on, and the NeoPixel adapter only has like 4 pins or 5 pins. You are not getting full amps to that blade. So when you don't deliver full amps to the NeoPixels, they won't do the color. So anytime it tries to light up in a white or a lighter color like blue, like you just saw there, it can't do it. It can't generate the amps. So the NeoPixels do the best they can to translate what you're wanting them to do with fewer amps. So I've redone your configs. In my opinion, this Saber needs a entirely, look, it's fine when it's running, you know, those, but once you put a full blade in there, as a matter of fact, if I put my test blade in here, I bet it's blue. See, it can light up the test blade, but I put a full length 1-inch blade in there, and it's not really lighting it up as bright as it should. Look what it does on the full blade. See how it looks kind of greenish? But now I put the test blade in there, and it lights up blue, a little bit brighter. That's indicative that you've got an amp delivery problem. Amp delivery problem. That Saber really needs a whole new install. While that chassis is kind of cool, and it has effects on the chassis, which I'm not going to take it apart to show all that. The sacrifice they made to put that chassis in the Saber with the connectors they used is no bueno. So that needs a reinstall. So I'm going to send it back to you like this. I don't have time to reinstall it. I'm going to send it back to you. It works kind of. Also, the pack store used unprotected lithium-ion batteries. And unprotected lithium-ion batteries, which are an explosive hazard, inside an aluminum tube is also known as a pipe bomb. Not safe. I would never use an unprotected battery in an install. But the good news is your graflex is the bomb. I mean, it's solid as a rock. I think I added the marble to some of your blade styles. Let me go check this real quick before we go do some other stuff. Hang on a minute.
Graflex, TFA, Ray Skywalker.
Did you come back to say you've...
Be careful. Not
Luke Skywalker. Kill him now.
Kill them all. If what you've told me is true,
That's Ghostbusters.
You ever hear the
Darth Malak.
hello there?
Oh, I didn't add the marble.
The force is with you, young
Oh well.
Skywalker.
Well, I can. It's up to you, Smooth Jazz family. If you want me to add the marble to this, I can. I've just turned that off and let me secure this. They may, Jeff, but the battery is certainly unprotected. My big problem with their install is they use these chintzy connectors where the chassis connects in, and it's just not very solid. What I recommend is it's going to need a full reinstall. And I don't even know who's making a chassis for that thing. But I mean, I'm going to send it back to you like it is. It's functioning. It has all the fonts on it you want. The board's been programmed. The board's working. What's not working is it's not getting, the switches are working. It's just not getting full amperage to that blade because the connectors they use to connect the chassis into the upper part of the battle brick assembly. Here, I'll show you. I'll go ahead and take it apart. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Here, chintzy. So this is the chassis on the battle brick. It's got cool NeoPixel accents, and they do their own thing. So that's pretty cool, right? You know, it does lockup and all that. And I've programmed these to do all kinds of cool stuff. But the problem is that they've used these chintzy connectors to connect the chassis to the adapter. And it's just real chintzy. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's got 7-pin NeoPixel connector in there, but it's a cheap one. Yeah, I don't suggest that. I don't like that. I'm sure they think that they were creative when they did that. And look, it's a really cool chassis with the NeoPixel accents. But I wouldn't have used these quick connects like this. It's chintzy. It doesn't stay together. That's the problem on this one. And it's really sad because it's really a cool Saber. But that's kind of a weird issue on that Saber. Yeah, it's money and time saving techniques, Jeff, but the problem is it's just they did so much work on this chassis. Why not just continue the chassis up into the Saber head and let it stick out as one complete piece? I guess they just meant for you to be able to remove this part and play with it. Which all this works. This works great. All the fonts and everything. It's like a little miniature lightsaber. Well, that's cool. That's it keeps turning on. But that's cool, but it's just not working out. So next. Eric, I'm gonna go ahead and send both those hilts to you. And I'm not gonna charge anything for what I did on this. I'll just charge you for the graflex and the shipping back to you. And once I have some openings, Eric, you know, we'll take you on and let me try to find a chassis for this battle brick. And if I can find a better chassis for it, we'll reinstall it. Yeah, that may be, might. Oh. Yeah, to me, I don't think that's, I don't think that connector is a good connector. It's just not getting full amp load through there. But at any rate, sorry to be the bearer of some bad news. Now, next, I want to talk about a project. This is a project that I've got upcoming. This is basically a kind of V2-ish MHS design that I did. This is all custom Saber shop, modular hilt system. I'm going to patina this with brass. I'll patina this section with aluminum black. I'll probably do aluminum black here. I'll leave this chrome and I'll leave the emitter chrome. And this is the button that I intend to do. This is the saber that I intend to do the no button saber with. So right now, SA2CC, which is Matt McGurry and me, both want to build a saber that has no buttons, and using gesture controls to change fonts, to use battle mode to get lock up, melt, tip drag. We just have to figure out a way to get blasters to work and music to work with 0 buttons. And I think we can do it, but I think we're going to have to do gestures when off and gestures when on. So we're going to have to dedicate some gestures when off that won't activate the saber. I think that's the key. But yeah, you know, Smooth Jazz Family, Eric, if maybe if you can find some flat top 18650s that are reputable, like Keep Power, and try them in there. Maybe it's the batteries that aren't delivering the full amps, but you definitely have an amp supply problem to the main blade. Like I said, you put a short blade in there, it's fine. You put a long blade in there and you lose everything. But that's going to be a 0 button Saber, NeoPixel, and she's ready to roll. I've been dreaming about making this for a long time. This one's totally empty right now. There's nothing in there, and we're going to make this thing roll. Next, I wanted to talk about this. So this is a project that I have been dreaming about for years. I've had the parts to build this saber now for quite a while. And this is a TGS graflex, and I'll have it set up in a New Hope configuration. I don't have the grips on it yet, but I wanted to show y'all something. I'm going to remove this clamp in the rear end, and hopefully she all stays together because it's not assembled properly. Ho, 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 ho. Bam. Mentor. And stand by because there's more. I'm going to take out the glass eye. And then we're going to remove the chassis. There's my Mentor. Look at that puppy. So I've assembled the chassis. I've got to put the crystals in there and start the install, but I had to build the chassis first before I started the install, so I kind of have a lay of the land of how everything works. And this is the kind that has the removable battery section. You just take that out, and then the battery section comes out and then pops back in. But I don't have all the chassis guide rods on there, but this thing is pretty sweet. Yeah, I can't wait to get all the blinkies going in this thing, and it's going to have blinkies everywhere. I'm going to have traditional LEDs, but I'm also going to have NeoPixel LEDs going in this. This is a personal build. You know, a couple of months ago, Jeff Birch told me, he said, you know, Tom, you got to build something for yourself every now and then. And this is me heeding Jeff Birch's advice. I've had the parts for this saber for over a year, and they've been laying in a box. And, you know, I look at all the chassis components, and I could kind of visualize it in my mind's eye, but I was like, good God, I need to build that thing. So this is a Solos Hold brass blade holder, and I've actually ordered a new switch cover in rhodium. And, you know, it'll have the slide switch here. It's going to have 3 crystals. This thing, I think, is going to have 9 blades when I'm done. I'm going to use a stock adapter in there. It's going to have, you have the crystal chamber, but it also has the, y'all aren't going to be able to see that because of my crappy lighting, but it also has basically I forget what Goff calls it, but it's almost like a blade generator in there. And there's 3 crystals, one here, and one here in the back. And then there will be accent lights back here. There will be neopixels here, neopixels here. There's going to be neopixels all over this thing. It's going to be nuts. So with all that shiny and all the crystals that are going in there, and then all the neopixels on this thing, this is going to be nuts. And I've always wanted a removable chassis system, and it's kind of slicker than snot because it slides right in there. And then you put the glass eye in. Yeah, this is a dream Saber for me, but Mike, just the parts to build this thing are expensive as hell. It's ridiculous. And I've been buying these parts over a long period of time. I know Jeff knows about that. And you just pop her back in, put the clamp down, screw the red button back down. No, not really, Eric. The blade length is not your problem. Your amps are your problem. Because even with a short blade, it's not doing what it should. But yeah, that, yep, Enoch Root, that is a Solos Hold Supreme brass blade holder on that thing, and it's awesome. Now a message from our sponsor. Long day at work. But I took Jeff's advice and I built a Saber for me. And, as I get the time approaching Christmas, I'm going to try building that thing. Yeah, Michael Dallin, a Saber like that, number one, just the chassis parts for that Saber alone were around $1,700. Then you have the TGS graflex, which is $200. And then you have, all the electronics and everything else that's going in it, and the blade and the install labor. To build a Saber like that, I'm imagining that's going to be a, $3,000 Saber or something like that. $2,500 at least. It's going to be expensive. Those parts didn't all fit together like the instructions said. There was a lot of metal work. Yep. Yeah, the chassis is the lightsaber there. But the cool thing about those chassis is once you build one chassis, you could technically build you empty TGS, A New Hope, ESB, TFA, and TLJ, and the Rise of Skywalker hilts. And that way you have all the graflexes covered, and that one chassis will work in all the replica graflexes. That's the cool part. Hogdo killer on the way. I got a 7/8 inch blade holder on that. I went 7/8. So definitely went 7/8. No, the Darth Vader, the chassis on that one is by Darth Rio, Goth 3D Designs, and it's called the Mentor chassis. His Graflex Mentor chassis. That's pretty much the top of the line chassis. But that's the cool part about those things, is you can buy that one chassis, and then you can buy Graflexes, and then you can build just a Graflex hilt, and you can build one in each of the configurations, and that same chassis should work in all the Graflexes. That's the cool part about that chassis is, you can make it work. You can make it work for all the lightsabers. I'll show that thing again. The blade on this is 7/8. 7/8. So let me I'll show that off again. It's pretty. Yeah, I don't think I want to be beating and banging this thing around. But, it's cool because the upper part of the blade holder stays in there, and your pins, you don't have to take none of that out. The design on that was really ingenious by Solos Hold. Aaron did a great job machining these. Actually, KR's new blade holder is really awesome, which I know Dimitri worked a lot on KR's new blade holder, but I'm very happy with this one. But I did order a new switch cover in rhodium because I want a contrasting color here. But man, I had to do a lot of machining and a lot of cleaning up on these parts so it fits smoothly in the Saber. But that is a thing of beauty for sure. Just the crystal reveal has 3 crystals, one here, one here, one here, and then you have the generator, the blade generator down here, which y'all can't see. So there's 4 blades right here just in this section. Then you're going to have a shock lit connector in here. That's another blade. Then your main blade, which is 7/8, which I'll show that. This is a version 2 Mentor. There's your 7/8 inch blade, which doesn't want to fit down in there. There it goes. 7/8 inch blade, which fits down in there, and it's a tight fit. This is a version 2 Mentor. No, there's no motor in here. I didn't want the motor, so I got the version 2. And the version 2 actually has the replaceable batteries, which was more of an interest to me. So it's got like a battery pod, so you slide the speaker pod out and it'll be on rails here in a bit. And then you slide out this battery pod, and you can put this on a charger. There's a charge adapter that I made for this that I'm going to be making. And then you plug your battery pod back in, and then this acts as your kill switch here. But then you just put your speaker pod back on and you're in business. So it's actually Rick really did a great job on this chassis. It's a piece of work for sure. It's definitely a piece of art. Let me get this back together. Of course, I don't have all this put together like it's supposed to be, so it's a little bit screwy, but because I don't have the guide rods in it and all that stuff. But she's pretty. My switch guard came off. This is a Mentor. This is a Goth 3D Designs Mentor chassis for a graflex Seth. This is the coup de grace of my collection that I'm going to be building hopefully this month. And, my thought process all along was that, oh yeah, well, it's brass and then rhodium plated brass. And then this is gold steel, which I've had to polish down because it was too thick. It wouldn't fit in. And when I polished the gold steel down, it came out to raw steel, but I don't care. It gives some contrasting colors in there. And then the back is printed in plain brass, and I may polish that up a bit. And, I'll have a lot of prettying up to do, but it's definitely a pretty chassis, man. That thing is awesome. But yeah, that is going to be my pride and joy. Well, what I was going to say, and I got sidetracked, was that, all along, oh yeah, it's expensive, Seth. This one's expensive. Just the chassis is like $1,700. But I've been buying pieces of it, over a long period of time. So it was, I couldn't afford this, in one foul swoop. This Saber's definitely out of my price range. Definitely. Definitely out of my price range. But, I'm going to build it. And it's going to be awesome. And I am super, super excited about that project. So, what have y'all been working on? Anything good? I didn't finish the thought because I'm like, oh, look, a squirrel. But I always said to myself, when we move and we get settled and I get caught up on some other stuff, which I have, then I want to build that Mentor graflex. And I took on a couple of, Profi board update commissions, which they really didn't kill me, especially not smooth jazz families. I was able to knock those out pretty quick. But yeah, my thought was as soon as I finish that graflex Mentor, then I'll open up for commissions again. And, I've got 4 Sabers, I think, to build. And then I'm totally clear on commission lists. Totally clear. And the chassis should be arriving today or tomorrow for 3 of those builds. So, yeah, Ken of the Hill, I think the way to do that is just to buy, a couple pieces as you can afford it. And don't skimp on the metals. Make sure that you kind of have a vision of what they need to look like. And Gaw 3D Designs give good suggestions on the metals to use to make them look like his demo chassis. And the master chassis in a Romans would be really nice. Yeah, the Phoenix Props Jedi Killer, I really wish I could have got in on that run, but financially I couldn't. You know, I close on my house in 2 weeks. And once I close on my house and I'm not paying 2 mortgages, actually 3 mortgages, then my life will be a lot better. But pretty much all my resources have been going into those mortgages. I mean, I bought all these. I've had this graflex laying around and that chassis laying around for well over a year. I think I've had it about a year and a half. I know Rick Rio was kind of like, when's Tom going to build the graflex Mentor? And I sent him some pictures and I'm like, I'm finally building it. And he's happy. So, you know, it's a big project. Yeah, that Jedi Killer that you made, Seth, was great. Did you ever sell that, the first one that you made, that Jedi Killer? I know the Phoenix Prop one is cool, but Jedi Seth made one that was really cool too. Chet Osborne's putting a prop in a $30 toy. Yeah. Now you got a $60 toy. Ron Davis got a KR replica, trying to find the right chassis, but funds are scarce. You just buy it. Pick out the chassis you love and buy it 1 piece at a time or 2 pieces at a time, you know, over a long period of time. And before you know it, you know, just create a checklist of all the parts you need. And before you know it, you're going to have all your chassis parts and you're not impacting your family's budget, you know, so massively. You know, if you buy a couple of $40 parts a month or every other month, you know, you're not killing yourself. And then that way you're spacing out that purchase over a long period of time. Just have a vision and a goal and try to get there rather than trying to buy it all at once. I mean, there's no way. You know, if I said, hey, I want a graflex Mentor and somebody build it for me, I don't have money to do that. I mean, you know, that's easily going to be a $2,500 to $3,500 Saber depending on which metal parts you use. And I couldn't afford that. But building it myself, I can probably do it for maybe under $2,000. And I've spaced that over probably 2.5 years by the time I get it built. You know? But that is going to certainly be the coup de grace in my collection. You sold 2 of them. I thought you only made 1 of them, Seth. I didn't know you built multiple ones. I know, you know, I was getting ready for this move when you built that one, and when you posted it for sale, I was like, oh my God, I wish I had the money to buy that. And I would have, because you know I would have done something to it. Because I think you had prism in there. And it was like a normal in-hilt LED. And, you know, I would have ripped all that out. Your hilts are awesome. But you know me, I like the NeoPixels. Yeah, Ron, you'll get it. Oh, the silver blade. I think I put that on your Saber, on your Ahsoka font. So, let's see. Didn't we put an Ahsoka font on your Saber, Eric? I thought we did. Cheap but nice. Yeah. You know, speaking of cheap but nice, okay? So this is a Gaw 3D Designs chassis for a Graflex 2.5, and you can paint them up to be nice, and they're not that expensive. I mean, you know, for under $90 you can have a chassis. Let's see here. Let's put a blade in here. Let's see if I can find that silver Ahsoka blade. I'm pretty sure I put a silver Ahsoka blade on here. Let's test it, make sure I got it. Oh yeah. Okay. Now let's find the Ahsoka Tano font. I don't remember. I mean, I did this graflex the day I got it.
Graflex. Ray Skywalker.
I've been waiting.
Be careful.
Luke Skywalker. Get him now.
Anything else?
For your own goods.
You know, that one's cool, that real flame. With that one font you bought, that fire font. And that's that real flame blade that Fernando made. That's Ghostbusters or something.
The tragedy of
Darth Malak.
Hello there.
The Force is with
I guess we didn't put an Ahsoka font on here. So while I got you here, Eric, if you want an Ahsoka font on there, you know, send it to me and I'll pop you a silver blade on there. I thought we had put one on there, but I guess I didn't. Keep looking, Ron. You'll find it. Chet Osborne almost finished up on an older DB6 with all red internals, red proppy, red chassis, red wires, red battery wrap. Oh, Chet, that's going to be awesome. That's my style. I hear you. Oh, man. I like the old DB6. Of all the old Corbant tilts, yeah, try to find it and I'll put that on there. I think we got room on your Saber maybe for one more preset. And after that, you're full. But I think I can do some trickery and maybe fit one more on there. Or we might have to lose one. But I think you got some doubles on there. Message from our sponsor. You want to talk about DV6s? That is, you know, I still got to paint this chassis. But I love these old DV6s. And this is a Gen 1 Corbant DV6. And I have the Goth Master chassis in there with the, you know, the brass accents. I love this Saber. I still got to put battle mode on here. So I got to... And we built that blade plug on Megtooth Monday Live. I don't even have any gestures on this. I forgot. Oh well. Well, that's another project that I need to do is upgrade this one to battle mode and put the gesture ignitions on it and paint the chassis. Sweet, Chet. Yeah, the old DV6 is awesome. Someone should do a step-by-step. Keep looking at all the updates. It's overwhelming. Yeah, so Ron, on the config.h setup, let me show you something. Let me share. Let me do Windows share, and I'm going to do Windows share no peek. And then, and I'll get back to you on that Kin of the Hill standby one. And let's go, I want to go into Arduino. So right now I'm going to open up 5.7. You can see all the different versions of Profi OS I have on here. But I'm going to open 5.7 OS. And I'm going to open up the Profi OS folder. And I'm going to open up this config folder. Now in this config folder are all these configs. So for instance, the, I don't know, what Saber we've been showing a lot tonight. I think we've been showing Smooth Jazz Family's ESP graflex. So this is his config file. Now a config file is nothing more than a Word document. And it's a Word document, and the top section up here contains all the information about the Saber. And, you know, at the top, it's, you know, this has a Profi 1.5, so it includes Profi board v1. If it was Profi 2.2, it would be Profi board v2 config.h. and that's automatically created in the config generator. It has 3 blades, 2 buttons, volumes at 1200, 1.9 is the class threshold, and then all this stuff has to do with battle mode and gesture ignitions. And then you scroll down to the presets. So the first preset is ESB, uses tracks credits wave, which is the end credits from ESB. And then right after the credits wave, this first thing is a blade stop, which you can copy and paste those from Fernando's website. And all the way through this, you see all of his different presets that he has on here. And I'm going to scroll down to the very bottom, because each preset is set up the same way. You have a font name, and then you have tracks and the music that you're going to be playing. And at the very end of the config file, you have the blade defines down here. So the first blade is NeoPixel 127, so that's your main long NeoPixel blade. It gets its data from blade pin, and color is GRB. It uses power pins 2 and 3. Then the second blade has 9 pixels. It uses the data 2. It's GRB. It gets its power from power pin 1 because it's only 9 pixels. So you only need to run one LED on there. And then the third blade is your crystal chamber LED, which this is I'm going to highlight. This is the third. I didn't want to do anything there. What I'm going to do is highlight your third blade. This is the third blade. Now this is an RGB blade, and it's a normal common anode RGB LED, and it's powered off 4, 5, and 6. It doesn't have a data line because it's a normal RGB LED. So the order that you call out your blades here in your blade defines is the order that they'll show up in each of your configs. So my first blade is my main blade. My second blade is the 9 pixel accent string that's in the back of his hilt, and my third blade is my crystal chamber. So if you go and look at my config file in this first preset, this blade style is for the main blade. This blade style is for the 9 pixel accent ring in the back of the chassis. And then the third blade is what I want the crystal chamber to do. So on his Saber, when it's off, it pulses between deep sky blue and black for 4,000 milliseconds. But when it's on, it's a simple deep sky blue blade. So each preset is set up like that. Each preset is set up so that you have multiple blades and ways to define them. Let's get back to Ken of the Hill's question. He likes the old DV6, still got to find a crystal chamber chassis for the DV6 V2. Yeah, I don't know, Ken of the Hill. Keep an eye on God. So the SA2CC is added. Where? Okay, Ron, I'll show you that. Let's go back into Windows Share, and I'll show you where in the config file I did that. So number one, pretty much all this section, all these defines are part of using SA2CC's gesture controls. You can see I've enabled swing on, and thrust on, and twist off. I've also done force push. I've set my force push length at 8. Gesture auto battle mode. That means if you ignite Saber in gesture, it's going into battle mode. Lockup delay is 200 milliseconds. Motion timeout, idle off time, and disable diagnostic commands, which saves space when I'm programming the Profi. Number one, you have to add all those defines, but then you have to go down here and you have to add this line. If def config props include prop Saber SA2CC buttons.h in define. So this is the beginning of the define, this is the end of the define, this is your include, where you're including SA2CC's buttons. Now let me show you something. Let's go back into the Profi OS, and I'll go into it from the desktop so you can see it. So I'm going to go into my OS 5.7 folder. I'm going to open the Profi OS, and I'm going to come down here to props, this folder called props. This contains all the button files. If you don't add a FET263 or SA2CC button.h define in your config file, it's just going to use the saber.h file here, which is the standard buttons. So when you use SA2CC's prop file, this is his actual prop file, but in the very beginning, he has a bunch of directions, including all those defines that I added. Here he tells you what defines you've got to add right here. Y'all recognize all that stuff? The same defines that are in my config file. And then force push, and there he has it, at 5. All those I've added. So you have to follow his directions, and he includes his directions in his prop file. So the directions on which defines you have to add to your config file are actually located within the prop folder in there. So hopefully you got that. So did you get all that, Ron? I mean, that's some basic addition stuff. So when you generate your config in the configurator on Frederick's site, we can go back to that here in just a second. When you generate your config, of course, the SA2CC prop file and all his defines that you need to use for battle mode are not on that general config, because it's using all the default stuff. It's using default sound files, it's using default wave files for your background tracks, and it's using default blade styles. Usually on a config file, the only thing I keep are the top defines and the blade defines if they're how I set them out. But all the presets in between, I change out, and then I add defines, whatever defines that I need to the top of the config to make it work. So let me go back to Windows Share. And so this is the very top of my config file. And again, here's all the defines that were in his directions. And you should recognize all those from the directions in his prop file. I added everything he said to add in the directions. I added all those to my defines. And then I custom built, all my blade styles using Fernando's site. Copy and paste, picked out something I liked and put it in there in the same order that I called for the blades down in the bottom of the config. Then I save that. I don't want to make any changes. Then I save that. Hey, Trackstar Willie. I saved all that in my, hang on a second, because we're going to go back to, I saved that config file, which here it is, ESB, where is it? ESB graflex. It's right down here. And you can see all my other config files. Like there's the battle brick for, for Smooth Jazz Family. So those are his 2 config files that I've done. But they're in the config folder. Now let's go to Frederick's website, right? And let me go back. So, didn't want that. Let me go back and go Windows Share No Peek, because I don't want, me blocking y'all out. And then let's go to Frederick's Profi board page. Let's say you're using a Profi board V2, and we'll come down here and say I need 3 blades. So I'm just going to say NeoPixel crossguard. That gives us our 3 blades right there. So I have 3 independent blades in a wiring diagram with 2 buttons, a speaker, and a recharge port, blah, blah, blah. And then here's my config file. But if you'll notice in the top of the sample config file, it doesn't have all those defines that you have to add to use SA2CC's button file. So you have to actually go in there and manually add them. And it doesn't matter where. You just create a space and define, enable stab ignition, enable twist ignition, define blah, blah, blah. All those things that he says to do, you just add them in right up here somewhere. And then below all that, you have to add in you want to use Matt McGurry's prop file. That's the define SA2CC's .saber.h or whatever it is called. But I had it up earlier. But, you can copy and paste all this. I mean, that's typically what I do is I'll grab all this stuff. I'll just grab it all out of the configurator. And once I have it, then I'll hit right click, copy, and then I go open a new document, and then right click, paste, and then there's all our stuff from the configurator. And that's how you start making a basic config file. Now, the key thing that a lot of people miss is, let me show you what I'm doing here. unclose that. So, yeah, let me close out of this so you guys can see how I get to it. So I'm going to go to OS 5.7, Profi OS, and then I'm going to scroll down until I get to Profi OS Eno, and I'm going to open Arduino from within the Profi OS folder. When you open Arduino from within the Profi OS folder, it opens Profi OS and Arduino. Now, then you have all these defines here. And so the last Saber I programmed was config kyberphonics _config.h, and I know that because there aren't 2 slashes in front of it. So what you're going to have to do is put 2 slashes in front of it in Arduino, so it's ignoring it, and then you're going to type out your new define line. Define config _ file config whatever. We'll call it Davy Saber _config.h. Now that's the file that you had to put into your config folder. And once you do that, you're ready to rock and roll once you plug in, if you've done all the drivers and everything properly. But that's just like a quick run through. Hopefully, hopefully that answered some questions. But yeah, you know, all the answers are actually within your Profi OS folder. Sometimes it helps to just open those folders and read what's in them, because a lot of times there's instructions within the folders. Ain't Trackstar Willie, Mountain Sabers? Yep. Mountain Sabers is absolutely right. If you go on Matt McGurry's prop file inside the props folder, if you go inside Matt McGurry's prop file in the prop folder, then everything that you need to add to get his stuff to work is included in the instructions in his prop file. And you can tell their instructions. Let's go back and look at them again so you know where to go to get them. So I'm going to go minimize all this. Then I'm going to go open 5.7, and I'm going to open Profi OS, and I'm going to go down to props. I'm going to open the props folder, and then I'm looking for SA2CC's buttons. Here it is. It tells you everything you need to do. You know, you need to define no lockup hold. You need to define all this stuff. And I think he tells you how to define his stuff too. Anything with slashes in front of its instructions. Yep, bada bing. So, I'm looking to see. He doesn't really say how to define the prop file, but defining the prop file is most certainly in the manual. Like if I open up a Profi manual, let's see here. Let's open a Profi manual. Might be in my Profi fonts folder, maybe. Yep. Profi manual. And hopefully y'all are seeing this. Let me make sure I'm on the right. Yeah, I'm on Windows Share, no Pete. So here's the manual. And let's see defining prop files. Three. Looks like it's page 46 and 47. I don't know, it's definitely in there how to define prop files. Changing parameters. Yeah, I'll have to go and look. I really wasn't prepared to do that tonight, but the bottom line is it's in the manual. It's definitely in the manual. You know, all you got to do is read the manual. It's definitely in there, how to define those. But I've definitely put up, I mean, y'all can go back and replay this video and you can see what my text says. Matter of fact, I'll open one now. Let's go back to Windows Share, no peek, to make sure y'all got this. And let's go to the ESB config. So let me close out of all this. Open 5.7 OS, Profi OS, configs, and go down to ESB graflex. This is Smooth Jazz Family's config file, and how you get it to use the SA2CC buttons is right there. #, ifdef, space, config _prop in all caps, #, include, quote, .. /props / Saber _SA2CC _buttons.h, end quote, return, #, indef, and you put that right beneath your defines. If you do that, it's going to use Matt McGurry's prop file when you compile using that method. But at any rate, hopefully that answered that question, Ron. That's okay. I mean, to me, that's why I want to do these live videos. And your question, there's no such thing as a dumb question. That's why I'm here. I want to help you guys answer your Sabers and build your own mess. Michael, we were talking a little bit about how to use custom prop files in these lightsabers to make them do the stuff we want to do. And Matt McGurry and I are going to be working on a 0-button config file for this Saber. This Saber is going to have 0 buttons on it, and it's going to have the stock thing underneath the bubble strip. That's going to be awesome. It's going to be cool. But yeah, I just want to answer the questions for y'all. But we're working on a 0-button prop file as part of SA2CC's button options. And this Saber is going to have 0 buttons. In other words, the only way you can turn it on and off or ignite the blade and do everything is going to be with gestures. So it's going to be really cool. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of answers in the open source group on TRA on how to get that done. But, you know, definitely got a lot of stuff going on with Sabers. But Smooth Jazz Family, I'm going to send your graflex and your battle brick back to you. And I'll be on the lookout for a chassis for that battle brick. Well, 0-button, if we could make it all work, would sure make installing a lot easier. Because a lot of times the hardest part of installs is figuring out, where am I going to put my buttons? Where am I going to run my wires for my buttons? And the buttons cause some of their own issues from time to time. So to me, 0-button solutions are pretty awesome. The board's smart enough to do it. The question is, are we smart enough to figure out a way to make all the features on the Saber work? I think we'll be able to turn on auto blast with a gesture. But I don't know. Maybe we have to turn on auto blast when before we activate the Saber. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not the brains behind this operation. I'm just a crash test dummy. I'm too dumb to write the code to do that. Yeah, 0-button Profi would be ideal. What do you think about that, Jeff? Would not installing buttons make your life easier? Or would it have made your life easier in your former life? Oh, Lord. Yeah, I thank you guys for tuning in every week. You know, I love answering your questions, and you know, there's people on here that I can give updates to. Oh yeah, Profi. Jeff saying Profi. He's like that redneck down there in North Carolina saying Profi. Yeah, Profi, potato. Yeah, it's coming. It's close. You know, and there's other people working on voice recognition software that might be able to be integrated with Profi OS. It's insane. Oh man, Jeff, It's life-changing. The gestures and the battle mode, I don't want a Saber without it. I love the gesture stuff. Proofy. Enoch Root's going to be different. We don't know where are you from, Enoch Root? He probably got some weird accent. Don't worry, Jess from Canada. Jess from Canada or something. California, Canada. What's the difference? Yeah. Yep. Yep. Jesse Kirkbride's got a great Dark Saber sound font, that's for sure. And y'all notice I did not talk about any spoilers from episode 13. And I just have to say, without doing any spoilers, SoCal. Enoch Roots from SoCal. You and Jeff Birch are in the same part of the country. So, Mike, there's an answer to that question in a video. I should go link it for Jeff. Let's go link it for Jeff, shall we? That question has been answered. Let's go to, let's see here. Let's go to YouTube. And let's go to Frederick's site. Frederick Hubenet. And we'll go to Frederick's page. And if you listen to I gotta turn on the computer sound here. Hang on. We'll share this link. Y'all can watch it on your own time, but I have to turn on the computer sound. Stand by.
And built the chassis and everything. And I tried to make it as accurate as I can when it comes to turning on and sounding the way it does in the movie. It's based off of the... Hello, Star Wars fans. I wanted to show off my new thermal detonator. It's a KR Sabers thermal detonator where I put a profit board in it and built the chassis.
I'm sorry, what did he say? What did he say, Jeff? What did he call it? Oh, Lord have mercy. He told me to call it flour. Birch, man, you're crazy. Told me to call it flour. It doesn't matter. Y'all, it doesn't matter how you pronounce it. The darn thing's cool. I am still impressed every time I ignite a Saber that I've built with it. It's incredible. Profi. Jen would be mad at me right now. Jen's like, you're such a right fighter. Oh, man. Oh, what did Chet say? Chet give y'all a lead? Repulse. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of good font makers out there. I think it's more like Professor. He's Professor on TRA. And I think that's where the name came from, is Professor on Profi. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what y'all call it. But at any rate, we've been on for almost over an hour, even though I went live kind of immediately. So, in the immortal words of Birch, we're at our limit, and we've got to cut this thing off. And Smooth Jazz Family, I'll get your Sabers out to you, and I'll send you an invoice. Like I said, I'm not going to charge you for that battle brick, but in my opinion, that needs a reinstall. Your graflex is awesome because I installed it. And it's got all your new fonts. But, send me whichever Ahsoka font you want on there, and I'll pop that on there before I send it. And I'll put the, if you want me to put the Ahsoka font on that one blade, I will. And I'll also put the marble in the back on that preset. Yeah, Ron. Anytime. I was glad seeing you, and if we could help you, make your Saber a reality, then that's awesome. Ooh, I'm still on Windows Share, and that's always cool for me to help people along. It's like Jeff said, there's not enough installers out here building lightsabers. I can't build a bunch of them. Maybe I churn out maybe 10 a year, maybe 15. So if you've got one of my Sabers, you got kind of a rare piece, because I don't build a lot of them. But if I can help somebody make their own, not killing me. There's so many emails I get every day about install this, install that, and can you make my Ultra Sabers better, and can you put NeoPixels on my Obsidian soundboard, and how much would that cost? And no, can't put NeoPixels on an Obsidian soundboard. Yep, that's awesome. That's awesome. But at any rate, we need to get going. Be nice to each other. Be nice to each other, especially right now in the United States. Be nice to each other. Israel, form us. Your Saber is ready. Still waiting on the custom font from Jesse, and I'll pop that on there and send it to Spain. So that's all we're waiting on. Your Saber's done. So I got a lot of Sabers getting ready to ship out. Should have that the Star Killer done. I couldn't even remember what it was called. Star Killer should be done before Christmas. So thank y'all for tuning in as always. If anybody learned anything tonight, that's a bonus. And maybe I can do a better Profi video now that I have better production software. But nerd up, everybody. Hashtag nerd up. Yeah, touching elbows during the vid. Nobody catch the vid. And everybody keep our members in your prayers that have had the vid or are fighting the vid. Because I know we've got a few regular viewers that, have been exposed to it. I think I got it in February. Everybody be nice to one another, help each other, and build cool Sabers, and and walk around the neighborhood showing your Christmas blade like I did the other night, and Jennifer was embarrassed. I was like, and the kids were like, that's cool. And I'm like, I know, right? And Jen's like, this is so embarrassing. That's kind of freaky. It's creepy that you're, it's kids like that. And I'm like, well, so what? It's a lightsaber. Roger that, Israel. We'll get it done and sent out to you in Spain. But thanks everybody for logging on. And we got to cut this off. We're well over an hour now. But may the force be with you all, or the dark side as it were. And we'll see you next week, hopefully. Unless work, Later, everybody.
Thank you, everybody, for watching, as usual. I really appreciate y'all tuning in on my channel. And as always,